What's up everybody, Sam Smyers here. Today I want to show you how to make the bass to Caramelle by Mesto. Now before we get started today, please make sure that you are subscribed to my channel and go ahead and give this video a like. And if you do want the presets to these sounds I'm going to show you today, you can grab them in my Patreon. Now this song, Caramelle, I'm not really sure exactly how to pronounce it. There are two bass layers, the main bass layers. You can hear this lower bass in the extended edit, so you can listen to that, where it is more of like a subby, plucky sound. And then you have this main lead bass sound that is a lot brighter. So let me just play you what I came up with. I made the little section where it's like the first little break and it goes into the drop. All right, so let me just break down what I did for that build-up section, and then we can go in to how I made each one in Serum. So for this build-up, there is almost like, so here's the original. There's almost this delay that is happening on those lower notes that turn off when it goes up to those higher notes there. So here is the MIDI. You can see I'm just using an E flat, and then when it goes up to these higher notes, this delay effect, whatever it is, maybe a slap delay, it goes away. And so what I was using was this Echo Boy. To give it that delayed effect. And I adjusted this echo time. I think I just selected this tape echo, but I adjusted this echo time so that it had a bit of delay. And then from there, I have this EQ8 where I'm cutting off the low end. And some of that top end. And then there is this reverb that comes in, and all I'm doing there is just automating the reverb on. And then off like that, and then automating on a kickstart when the drop comes in. And let's take a look at the filter automation. You can see the filter automation there. That is the high cut and the low cut here. Now I did take that low cut all the way off. Maybe he's not putting all the bass in because there is that low bass. Either way, if you're just sidechaining both of them, maybe they'll glue together, but maybe you don't need to add in all the bass because you have this low bass already. So that is something that I was experimenting with, because a lot of times if you have that low bass in there already, you might want to cut off some of that low end. But I mean, I don't think I think it sounded fine like that versus cutting off all the low end. Then I also hear this in the drop. I hear this noise that comes in. You're going to see that I don't know if it was actually on the bass, but it followed along with the bass. And so I just put it in the bass sound and automated it on because it wasn't really in that build-up part. So I just added it in the bass there. And then the low bass part just kind of sounds like that. It's pretty mono sounding, plucky sub bass with a bit of harmonics. So let's just look at that. And for the MIDI here, I don't think the notes went all the way up like it did on the main bass. I don't think it went up that far. I think it just went up to this E and then back to the E flat, versus in this main top layer, I feel like it goes up to these octaves of the E and E flat. So the low bass, let's take a look at this low bass. I will turn off the kickstart and take a look at what I did in Serum. It was pretty subby sounding, so let's just go into my effects, no effects, and turn this all off and listen to it one by one. Voicing is on mono envelope. You can see here I have this release that I extended. And I do have this sub, which you're not going to be able to hear unless you have on some headphones like I do. And this is going to be sine wave, -2 octave. And I added on a saw wave. Just the default shapes, didn't really change this wavetable. When you open it up, it's going to be your default shapes. Octave -2, randomness, I kept that at 100. Unison at 4, detuning at 0.06. But in the unison, the width I set to 0 because the sound itself is very mono, but I wanted to get some extra harmonics, which we'll hear once I add on the filter. And then sometimes when you add on multiple voices of unison like that, I feel like I still need something a little bit in the center. And instead of doing something where I have this 5 voices of unison where you see that one yellow line there is going to be your center voice of unison, I could maybe do where I adjust the blend like this and have this one in the center more, but sometimes I like to just go into the other oscillator and add in just this one voice of unison in the center, randomness at 0, octave at -2 there. And then my envelope 2, you can see I adjusted my envelope 2, and this is what I use to assign to the filter. You just click here, drag it to my cutoff. Cutoff is around 70 hertz, 25% on this modulation. Now, sometimes when you drag this to the cutoff, it's going to look like that. So you just do Shift and Option to get it to go only this one way. Resonance at 11, drive around 20%. And it is turned on for the sub, oscillator A and oscillator B. And of course, you have to make sure to sidechain that. So here is my sidechain. I use Kickstart to get that pumping effect. Now for the main bass sound, let's go through this, and I'm going to go ahead and take off the effects here, and I'll go into Serum, and let's take off the effects in the bus and that bus. Voicing is on mono. This portamento is on always at 120, and here is the shape of my envelope. Icon has kick wavetable. That's going to be in digital, so you just go down to Icon has kick there. And then you raise up this wavetable position to 81. I turned down this randomness, raised up this level, and you can see my envelope 1 there. Gives it a bit of a plucky sound with a bit of delay each time it's playing. And when you open this up, it's going to be sent to main. But what I did is I clicked here, sent this to none, and then I sent this to bus 1. The reason I did that is because I wanted to also EQ this noise differently that I added on. And I sent this noise, did the same thing, did this to main, but I sent it to bus 2. Now I can EQ them both differently, treat them both differently. So what you do from here, what I did from here, is I went into my effects section, this bus 2, listen to the noise now. Let's go ahead and just take off this. Versus without that EQ, so it just makes it a bit brighter. And then this bus 1, let's turn on the oscillator A again. Hard clip, and then I just tried to EQ it a bit. To fit more with the sound of the track. And the noise there, maybe you don't want that in there, so you could just skip the whole noise part. Or maybe let's do a macro, turn this off. Play around with that level there. Now let me just solo these together. I'll do the main bass and that low bass, and I will turn on the kickstart. That is how I remade the bass to Caramelle. If you do want to grab these presets, you can find them in my Patreon. Thank you so much for watching.